Hey, Job here. On this channel, I invest 100% of my income and live out of my Robinhood brokerage account. I've been doing this since the end of May 2025 last year, and today we'll be going over the 11th month since I started this strategy that should hopefully bring me to an early retirement at 40 years old, in roughly 4 years from now. It's a very aggressive strategy for sure, but after almost a year of running it next month, it's yielding some pretty promising results so far. I'll go into all the details, breaking down my big outperformance. I more than 2x the S&P 500's gains this week and as well as this month. So we'll go over all the details of that. I'll go over all my dividends received, go over the portfolio numbers since I started this strategy in May last year, go over my goals progress as far as kind of how I'm doing to replace my salary and all that. And then I'll end with an overview of the expenses from last month. All that said, as usual, you'll get radical transparency on this channel, whether the market is up or down. You'll see all my real numbers and see exactly how much skin I have in the game for any given position. If you appreciate all that transparency, give a like and subscribe. As usual, just a quick disclaimer, this video is for entertainment and education purposes only. I'm not a financial advisor and nothing here should be taken as financial, investment, or tax advice. I'm simply sharing my personal investing journey and documenting my own results. Make sure you read this disclaimer carefully. And yeah, and if you were here for the last video, you saw that I finally updated my weekly flow chart of how I invest 100% of my income. As I said, I invest 100% of my income, which at minimum is 2.25K a week for my W-2 paycheck, and then any other income that comes in, as far as cash back and all that. I invest 10% of that into growth and 90% of that into high yield ETFs. I've stopped using a traditional bank account to live entirely out of my Robinhood brokerage account. I use cheap margin of 4.5% to pay all my bills and bridge the gap between my monthly dividends and my monthly bills. The goal is to ideally never sell a share. I want to forever compound both my growth and high yield assets and eventually have my monthly dividends exceed my monthly expenses. For an in-depth breakdown of the video of this chart, check out the link at the top right of the last video where I do a nice breakdown of this new chart here. And yeah, let's just get started. So if we pop over to Robinhood, we'll kind of see the numbers at the end of the week here. So ended at, including the after hours here, at 202.3K in the portfolio, was up 0.67% on Friday or $1,341. If we check on the week here, I was up 2.25% or 4.45K. On the month, was up a lot, 22.08% or 36.5K. On the 3 months, I'm up 13.5% or 24K. Year to date, up 12.19% or 21.9K. If we go to all, since I transferred in July last year, up 29K or 16.8%. So yeah, big reversal since the end of March, really, with ceasefire and all that. Still, we'll see whether that holds or not. I'm not too confident. So I could see this still dropping from where we are now. So we'll see. I'll enjoy the green while it lasts. It's been lasting the last couple of weeks, really. As you can kind of see too, this is all my live portfolio. You can see all my positions here. And yeah, we'll dive into that a little more here if we pop over to my investment sheet here. If we take a deeper look at everything, so if you add all my positions together, right? Yeah, my growth over here and then also my high yield ETFs, I'm sitting at 374.7K gross, barreling towards 400K gross value, which will be a huge milestone when that happens. So I kind of expect that in the next few months, assuming there's not a big downturn, right? As far as margin used, I'm sitting at 172.4K, which nets me a net value of 202.3K. So yeah, as I mentioned last week, yeah, we've kind of flipped totally green, which is nice, both in the total return column and also even on the unrealized gains column. So for total profit on the total return side, if we include my realized gains, so that's negative right now, dividends received over the last few years, and then all of that on margin, essentially, I'm sitting at a profit of 71.4K or 35.33%, which is great. If we flipped over to the unrealized gains side and we kind of take the unrealized gains and add in the losses, and that's sitting at a 5.5K gain or 2.74% gain. So just eked out a gain here, but you can kind of see here, even without the realized gains factored in, kind of sitting pretty nice as well too, and kind of going up from there. Almost everything has kind of flipped green except the usual suspects, or still kind of lagging behind given its international exposure and Japanese exposure, which is very affected by the Strait of Hormuz blockade going on. And YMAX and ULTY still sitting in the red here, even with total return. YMAX surprisingly kind of getting close to getting out of the red there. And KCOP, which is a fresh position, has kind of got hit by some of the war volatility this week. So I bought a little bit of the dip here, and we'll probably continue doing so if it stays there. And BTCI, I've just been kind of buying the dip here and there. It's just kind of been in this channel for a little bit here. Bitcoin kind of hits an uptrend. Could kind of see that changing, hopefully. So we'll see. And if we pop over to how that's all split up between my growth and high yield income. So on the growth side of things, that makes up roughly 185.5K out of the 374.7K. So just under 50% at 49.5. And then on the high yield income side, I've kind of started eclipsing the growth. I'm sitting at 189.1K. So a little over 50% there. So that's how it's split up right now as far as like the gross value there. If we check in on my margin health, so all these numbers are the same from the gross, the margin used to net, right? But if we take the gross portfolio value and apply the blended margin maintenance ratio here, so all my positions are basically 25% blended margin maintenance, you get this margin maintenance dollar value here, the 93.6K. So my portfolio value would have to drop to this number essentially for a margin call to be triggered, right? So if you take this and minus that out to your net portfolio value, you get your margin buffer here. So 108.6K. So that's my margin buffer. And if you take this and divide this by the net portfolio value, that gives you 53.69%. So again, this is what Robinhood uses, right? So if you kind of check their buffer here, kind of roughly matches what's here. But personally, I don't like taking this number into account because it kind of makes you feel safer than you are, right? You're like, oh, a 50% drop won't ever happen probably, right? But really, that doesn't take into account the margin amplification. And I think what's important there is this buffer, whether it's the net value or the gross value, that's how much your portfolio would have to fall. So if you take this buffer and apply it to your gross portfolio value, so divided by that, you get this percentage, so 28.99%. So if your gross portfolio value were to drop by that percentage, which is the equivalent of this, that would basically be the equivalent of a 53.69% drop on your net portfolio value. So I can't stress this enough, right? Just do the math to kind of get your margin buffer on your gross portfolio value. So it's really important to understand. Because really a nearly 30% drop, that could definitely happen. Like it happened in COVID over a month. Yeah, it happened over a year on the 2022 tech downturn, right? So definitely a good thing to keep in mind. I'm always kind of keeping this number in mind. That's why it's hot green over here. Hoping to keep growing this over time for sure and get this like well above 30%, like ideally in the 40-50% range eventually. And with my equity, that's sitting at 53.99%. So sitting fairly healthy here and climbing every week with my paycheck investing. And my buying power here is sitting at 86.7K. So I could take this full number and keep investing into stocks, buy high yield ETFs or whatnot if I wanted to, but I won't because I want to keep my margin buffer high. And you get that by doing your margin total minus your margin used, and that's how you get your buying power. And if you take your buying power and divide that by 2, you basically get your cash available for withdrawal roughly. So 43.3K. Healthy amount to withdraw. Like this is cash I could take out. Like if I take this out, this basically depletes the buying power, right? Because this 2x is to the buying power. So you could either invest it or take it fully out in cash. And yeah, that's where the margin health sitting. So pretty healthy overall after this big run up over the last month. As far as the monthly dividends, I'm kind of estimating that I'm going to get roughly $4,889 a month. So which is nice bump up from even a couple weeks ago, really, given my big sign-on bonus investment. And yeah, it's nice because really if you factor in my interest that I'm paying for all that margin, right? So the 172K of margin, I'm paying $642.81 of interest every month. But I am bringing in 4.8K in monthly dividends. So there's a nice spread between there, right? So 4.2K in profit essentially that I'm making on all the leverage that I'm taking out. And this is roughly doing a distribution yield of 31%. So that's on just if you take that money, the dividends, and divide that by the high yield income assets that I have in the portfolio. If you go over the full portfolio value, it's actually closer to 16.33%. So yeah, steadily growing that. Yeah, I'm kind of targeting an hourly salary target of $86.06. This was based on my old job there. So yeah, if we go off just my high yield assets and like what the 4.8K a month is doing, I'm sitting at $28.10 in hourly wages, which is pretty good. So still have a ways to go to kind of get to this point here. This was my gross salary target. So yeah, but it's nice that my portfolio is doing that much, handily beating Washington's minimum wage right now, which is nice. And yeah, and that's all the deep dives on the numbers there. If we pop over to Snowball and kind of check on the categories here, things are firmly in the green here, which is nice. Yeah, even the ultra yielders surprisingly are in the green here, like posting a 6.3K gain or 6.19%. Definitely a lot of capital gain losses here, but that's being offset by the dividends. So really a lot of that is being carried by Chippy here, up 23.27% or 9K. So that's between a 6.2K capital gain and 2.8K in dividends. YMAX and ULTY slowly climbing out of there, and BTCI as well. The anchors here doing solid and kind of have had a nice run up. They're all being held up nicely by XPAY here, up 28% between its capital gains and its dividends. TSPY, TDAQ, SPY, QQQI have all had a nice run up with the bounce back over the last month or so. MLPI is back in the green, which is nice. And KCOP, yeah, like I said, that this one's a fresh one, so we'll still be a little bit in the red. And I haven't quite gotten a dividend from this yet, but we'll get that next month for the first time. And the hedges here just eking out a green, $584, up 1.45%. So my hedges here. So gold is kind of my uncorrelated hedge to the market, which I'm investing in every month. So $200. And then CLSE and ORR. That's where I basically took all my single stock investments from a couple months ago and invested in these long shorts just to kind of help just hedge the portfolio there. So yeah, these invest in longs in the market and then also kind of short certain companies. So it kind of helps reduce the beta and the volatility for this kind of chunk of funds that's in here. So yeah, helps stabilize the portfolio a little bit in normal times, which is nice. And yeah, CLSE has had a nice run up along with everyone else with the bounce back in the last bit. But OR is still lagging behind here, and that's why I'm kind of still buying into that as it's dipped, right? Yeah, if we kind of check its channel here, I'm just kind of making those buys here in this dip channel, right? And then as far as the anchors for my growth and dividend growth, that's sitting nice, up 24.31% or 29.7K. And yeah, pretty much all of these are in the green now, which is nice. Yeah, double digits in the green for everybody. So just nice across the board. And yeah, honestly, just very happy that I'm kind of not in single stocks anymore. I think I'm pretty much just going to stick to ETFs. I've been enjoying it, and just the reduced volatility overall, honestly, and not having to worry about individual companies as much has been nice. If we pop over to the growth side of things, yeah, we can kind of compare for the week. I'll switch from the week and then go over the month, right? So for this week was up 2.3K or beating the S&P 500 by 1.17%. If we look there, if we compare here, we can kind of see the exact numbers here. So roughly matching what we saw in Robinhood earlier, a little bit different, but up 4.7K or 2.38%, and the S&P was up 2.3K or 1.19%. So yeah, doubled S&P, which is nice. And if we check on the week here as well, to kind of see across the board, CHD did great, SPMO as well. Yeah, ULTY didn't quite stack up to VU this week, though it has been doing a good year to date. We'll take a peek at that. ORR down a little bit. Yeah, KCOP, as I mentioned, fresh investment, but that has been down with the war volatility as well as gold. But other than that, yeah, we can kind of see that VU is up 0.94%. TSPY kind of captured a good chunk of that, but not as much, of course. And then SPY a little bit less. As far as QQQ, up 1.5%. You can see that QQQI captured a percentage of that. TDAQ here actually captured as much as QQQM, which is great to see. That's always nice to see that they were able to match that there. I feel like TDAQ and TSPY overall, from what I've been noticing week to week, is that it is capturing a little bit better of the upside compared to QQQI and SPY, which is nice. So that's why I'm glad I'm kind of holding between the two and the two different option strategies, honestly. And Chippy up 0.76%. If we check year to date, we can kind of see, so everything's mostly in the green. SCHD really heading the pack here at 17%. Chippy up a monster amount, 23%. And yeah, BTCI still lagging behind. ORR still lagging behind. KCOP. YMAX still lagging behind here. And ULTY actually not too far from VU. It was actually matching it the other week, but has fallen behind a little bit this week. But yeah, just great to see how things are holding up year to date, right? SPMO, the momentum's working nicely in their favor, beating out QQQM. And XPAY, yeah, getting close to matching VU, which is nice. And yeah, you can kind of see how stuff is going. If we pop back over to the month, let me just isolate it to basically April here. Yeah, you can kind of see that I was up, or I was beating the S&P by 12.3% or 22K. If we do it as well here, we'll just do that. And that, you can kind of see that, yeah, more than doubled the S&P's performance over the month of April, which is amazing. So it was up 40K or 24.85%. And the S&P was up 16.6K or 10.29%. That was kind of assuming, I think how they calculate this is how they assume that like at any point that I invested into my portfolio, I invested into the S&P. And that's how they kind of make the comparison there. So really cool to see how much, yeah, when you get those successive green days I've been talking about, right? Like it helps a lot. But of course, this also works in the same way on the downside, right? But yeah, been working really nice. So you can kind of see like on those downtrends was kind of getting hit hard. But on this uptrend and the consecutive green days has been helping a lot to really outperform the S&P here. So we'll see how this holds up. It could very easily still kind of continue in this downtrend channel if the ceasefire breaks. So yeah, we'll see how the rest of the year goes here. As far as the period here for the heat map, let's check. Pop it over here. And yeah, so overall, it's just a very green month when you look at everything. Chippy up 29%, crazy amount. So yeah, if someone was investing in SMH proper with no dividends, they're probably even more here. Yeah, ORR down a little bit, KCOP down a little bit, gold down a little bit. So yeah, it was nice to buy into gold and KCOP's dips over the last month. But just double-digit growth for a lot of positions here, which is, yeah, just crazy to see, honestly. XPAY up 11%. Actually beat out VU, which is crazy to see. PMO up 19%, beating yeah, TDAQ not too far behind QQQI, which is nice. You can see that QQQI didn't hold up as well. SPY here, definitely lagging behind, but TSPY holding up better against VU. And Bitcoin has had a nice run up, 8.8% this month. So yeah, overall, an amazing month. Yeah, really happy with the performance of the portfolio. And despite that I'm doing kind of like a hybrid growth income, it's still nice to see that, yeah, I've been able to kind of get a good chunk of this upswing. I won't get the full amount, of course, given the income ETFs, but it's still nice to get a good chunk of it. So as far as the dividends received this month, actually, let's just do the weekly amount first this week. So this week we got Chippy at $389, also ULTY at $209, and then YMAX $155. So nice little week here as far as the weeklies. And then on the month of April, did like a nice month here. So got 4.9K, $4,931 in the whole month. So beat out March, which is nice. Trending towards potentially getting roughly the same in May, 4.8K. We'll see. As I invest more, I might actually get close. And so it was a good month overall and kind of trending nicely. And I feel like kind of trending up really from since I kind of rebalanced everything. It's been kind of steadily growing, which is nice to see. And if we really dive into the dividends here, we can kind of see how the yield on cost is looking. So the usual suspects there as far as like ULTY, YMAX, and BTCI who have kind of eroded, right? So like with all the capital that I've invested into it, I am getting a 66% yield on the capital I have left in it now. But like on the initial capital, the yield on cost on that is actually 42%. On YMAX, yield on cost is 39% instead of like the 61% I'm getting with the capital left. And for BTCI, it's more like 18.77% rather than the 26% I'm getting every month. But everything else, Chippy's like, yeah, yield on cost is getting even better as it's rising. And then XPAY, TDAQ, KCOP, TSPY, QQQI, IAUI, SPY, MLPI, all these anchors here are holding up great. And that's why I'm kind of really focusing on these for the remainder of the year, right? To really build some sustainable yields and yeah, really minimize the NAV erosion and also yield erosion. So very happy with how that's been going, right? A lot of my passive income you can kind of see here is coming from Chippy because I have a sizable position there, ULTY, YMAX, a good chunk from XPAY as well too, and BTCI. So you can kind of really see the breakdown here of where all that income is coming from, right? And yeah, you can kind of see like the last trailing 12 months really of like how that's been going. So definitely up and down, but it seems like I'm starting to get to like maybe an uptrend here, which will be nice. And yeah, still just year over year beating out where I was at the previous year, which is nice to see. Yeah, hopefully I can kind of keep that in May. This might be 4.6K. I think I should be able to beat that next year. I think these later ones where I'm like in the 5.7s, 6.4s, like that, those are going to be hard to beat. But yeah, I think overall should beat out for most of these months here, which is nice to see. And then as far as the portfolio, so like if we pop over to this side of portfolio, so I like kind of tracking where the numbers are at the end of every month, right? Basically, since I started the strategy back at the end of May there. So I started at a gross value portfolio of 205.8K and a net value of 117.8K, right? And yeah, now I'm all the way to 374.7K now with 1 month to go before we hit our 1 year anniversary of running this strategy. And I've nearly doubled my net value at 202.3K. So if we look at like the charts of how that's going, you can kind of see that clear uptrend for the gross value, right? Which is nice. So really cool to see how much this has grown, right? Net value as well, you can kind of see the same here. And yeah, and then also you can kind of see how the margin is also steadily growing, right? So as a reminder, my margin will kind of keep growing roughly like 4 or 5K a month, depending on my expenses that month. until I reach a point where my monthly expenses exceed my monthly dividends. Then any extras that are coming from the dividends will pay down the margin, right? So at that point, you should start seeing the margin go down a little bit. And yeah, you can kind of see how the margin equity, margin buffer, and net buffers are going. So big upswing here this month, right? You can see my available for withdrawal, my margin buffer went up, my margin buying power as well. So just nice to see how that's all progressing, right? The monthly dividend is just a little bit of a downtrend there, but hopefully you can kind of turn this around over the next few months and get that line up. And yeah, that's a big reason as well that I kind of pivoted the strategy a little bit to not be as heavy in ULTY and YMAX and all that, and just really focus on the anchors to really get a more of a momentum to kind of get this trend line up there as far as the monthly dividends received, right? So there was a lot of erosion in my income over the last year because of investing in those higher yielders. So want to flip the balance there a little bit. But overall, yeah, just really solid month. Really happy with where stuff ended at the end of April here. So the equity was at 53.99%. Available for withdrawal, like we mentioned before, 43.3K. Margin buying power, 86.7K. 28.99% of the full margin buffer if you go off the gross. So this has grown nicely. 53.69% on net. And yeah, you can kind of just see like the steady progression on all that, right? And 4.9K this month as far as dividends received, which is great. If we pop over to the projection sheet here to kind of see where stuff is sitting, so you can see that I updated all my numbers here. So anything that's green, I've basically put in the numbers manually of what I actually got. And then stuff gets kind of reprojected out from there, right? You can kind of, I'll kind of update these based on the goals here. So like extra net paycheck covered would be 5.3K. Monthly expenses covered would be roughly 9.18K right now. Net monthly would be 10.7. This would actually be 9.75 right now, actually, roughly. And yeah, the gross would be probably a little less than this. And 2x gross would be 29.1K. So that's like a target. And we'll see. This is going to be a little bit out of range, I think. Yeah, let's just kind of see how that's changed and shifted. So extra net paycheck covered might actually be closer to, yeah, potentially in November, it's looking like. November of this year. Monthly expenses covered. This is actually sitting right. Yeah, looking like July 2029. Net monthly salary covered. So that was like 975. So probably more like January 2030. So closer to the 40-year-old mark here. Gross monthly salary covered. So that was like 14.8K, right? So this kind of gets delayed a little bit here. And margin paid off don't quite get there. At least right now my projection stops at 45. I'll need to actually extend this eventually just to kind of see where those end up and send for the 2x gross monthly salary here. So that's like way far in the future. But really what this tells me is that like I may want to see how I want to accelerate potentially kind of getting even more monthly dividends, right? Just so I can kind of like, this is my goal here to hit retirement roughly by 40 years old. So ideally I'd want to get my net monthly salary covered quite a bit sooner, right? So I'll have to see what ways I might do that. Maybe I would need to revisit reinvesting the dividends potentially at the expense of kind of running up my margin a bit higher. So that's maybe a risk need to debate whether I want to take or not, but yeah, I'll have to rethink some things to kind of hit this target roughly, but it is good to kind of get a ballpark estimate of like where things might land based on my updated numbers, right? So yeah, it's always nice to keep these projections in mind. Personally, I kind of don't like going into stuff as blind really, right? So yeah, just having a rough idea is nice. And yeah, that's where the projections are sitting at. Then the final thing I want to do is go over the expenses for over the last month in April. Yeah, it was a monster month in April. I had like 27.6K on income come in so that's between my paychecks. So that include my normal paychecks and my signing bonus, which is huge. So 15K in B2 income, the 4.9K in dividends, had my tax refund that came in, the 4.2K, my 2 final unemployment payments, which I paid myself for my HELOC, which I'm still waiting on from Washington, by the way. So hopefully it's coming soon. We'll see. Got my rent income as well, business income. So any YouTube related income here, right? Dividend income from retirement accounts and cash back. A lot of cash back this month, $118. As far as expenses, it was definitely a big month. I definitely got close to like the 9K that I normally do. Yeah, ideally I'd want to get this lower, right? But it just ended up being an expensive month, and we'll kind of dive into there. A lot of unexpected costs that came on. So my fixed cost ended up being 5.1K. So yeah, I live in a high cost of living state, right, in Washington, just north of Seattle. So yeah, just expensive. This is my fixed cost. This can't really change from month to month. And yeah, guilt-free spending. So 2.45K there. Had some travel there that got factored in. Took a little cabin trip with a friend before starting my new job. So we got an Airbnb by the water in the Olympic Peninsula, which was pretty nice. Took the ferry there with our car. And fixed costs for pets. So food, vet visits, things like that, $357. Shared utilities, so this is water, electricity, all that stuff, $292 this month. And yeah, some light house renos. I ended up repainting my fence in the front yard. So yeah, that's just the cost of like a little quart of paint that I got there. But if we really break that down, kind of see that a good chunk of the fixed cost here is the mortgage, right? Just under $3,000. My fiance and I, we love going out to restaurants. So this is always like a high category. So $1,200 there for restaurants. Medical. So I had like a few doctor's visits throughout the month, and I got onto my fiance's work medical plan as I was in between jobs, right? She's on a high deductible HSA plan, so had to pay a good chunk out of pocket there. And yeah, and actually with my new job now, I actually took an HSA as well. So yeah, I'm kind of expecting more medical costs overall as I kind of get my annual checkups and things like that. Luckily, I don't go to the doctor that often, but yeah, they'll pop up more than you've seen in the past, given that I want to build up my HSA now and invest that. Fitness, I actually had to buy some new adjustable weights because the old ones that I've had from back in 2021 ended up meeting their end, just broke. It wouldn't change weights anymore, so I had to buy some new ones. I'm actually pretty happy with them. If anyone does adjustable weights, I did like the Nordic Track adjustable dumbbells. Actually feels more like real dumbbells, which is nice. I had a long overdue car detail for like the inside of my car was crazy with like all the dog hair and stuff like that. So $464, that's quite a bit. So did a big interior detail. It feels like new in there, which is nice. Smells like new. Groceries had $436 this month with all the eating in we did. Again, travel hotel here. That was like that cabin we talked about. The household items we bought from Amazon. Pet food, entertainment and recreation. My gas and electric was $167 this month. Furniture, we ended up buying a new table outside for our patio from Costco. Yeah, gas, this has gone up. Like typically I don't use as much gas, but since I was laid off, actually I was driving a lot more, surprisingly. But yeah, that was $142 for the month. Got some new shoes, waterproof shoes this month, so that was $141 there. Internet cable, which is $124 a month. Travel food, this was all from that same cabin trip, right? We love our coffee shops here as well too, so $109. Pet insurance, $100 a month between the cat and the dog. And yeah, just little gifts for friends or for my fiance and whatnot. Subscriptions, I've kept this a lot tighter, so this is like $55 a month. Travel transport, again, that same cabin trip, parking and tolls. We'll get into like all these smaller things, but you kind of get the idea between everything, right? So yeah, that's how it's looking. And to give you an idea of how I'm still living out of the brokerage and kind of still paying for all this, right? And here, again, the macro category breakdown. So overall, 18.8K of savings overall after you do the income minus the expenses, right? So a 68% savings rate, which is nice. So, but this all gets paid on margin as well too. So yeah, just nice net gain over there, really, right? So yeah, solid month overall. I can kind of really see that it was like a big upswing here. May will obviously be a lot less, but it'll be nice to kind of see what my regular kind of flow is now with the new paycheck, and yeah, just try to make some efforts to kind of get my monthly expenses down. It can range anywhere between 7 to 9K every month. So yeah, trying to keep a lid on that. But yeah, that's the monthly expenses. Yeah, and definitely let me know what you think about this. If you care about knowing this. There was just a couple people in the comments last time that we went back and forth on this, so it seemed like some people appreciated this. But yeah, just trying to give a real view and of like how I'm actually kind of doing all this, right? And really, that's the video. So if you want to see how to support the channel, you can kind of just check the description below. You have my free Snowball portfolio link here that you can check out anytime. You'll see all these same numbers that I show you every week. My Blossom Social profile. You have my free portfolio spreadsheet if you want to take a look. You have our Discord if you want to join the community. This is free as well, by the way. Patreon, all my videos are hosted there as a backup. And yeah, everything is always below, so check it out. And if you appreciate this kind of transparency and want to keep seeing this week in, week out, give a like and subscribe. Hit the bell notification if you want to be notified about future videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.